Well, good morning. I want to introduce to you, first of all, Edgar Garcia. Stand up back there, Edgar. So appreciate you. We stole his questions from some of the earlier meetings we've had over the last couple of months. So Edgar, people have written down their answers, so maybe at the end you can go around and just pick up the sheets and continue to inform the city of what you all are talking about. I get the privilege this morning. We're going to bring up our presenter early today, Joe Lopez, who first I'm going to read you what's on this script, and then I'm going to give you my own words. So Modesto City Manager Lopez, he's responsible for all operations of city government and making recommendations to the city council on a variety of issues, as well as carrying out the decisions of the council. He's worked for the past 7 years in various capacities for the city of Modesto. For 11 years before, he worked in human resources for Sacramento County. And as a friend that I'm grown to love and care about and admire, here's my traits for him. He's been humble. He's been curious. He's a learner. He's got a focused eye on the goal and the prize of who he wants to be and what he wants to do. He's working at driving through the complex maze of government. And if you don't work in government, you might think, you might have an impression, it's just easy. We'll do whatever you tell me, and it's okay. But it's very complex, and we're all learning how to navigate that wonderful thing we call government. I do know that he wants to be an incredible dad and incredible husband. So I want to introduce to you, again, my privilege to introduce my friend, Joe Lopez.
Good morning, everybody. Can you hear me? Get myself situated here. Uh-oh, I'm not going to have enough room. All right. Good morning. So, thank you, Marvin, for introducing me here today. I greatly appreciate the opportunity to speak before you today. I'd be remiss if I didn't introduce my bosses, except I only see one, and Doug doesn't count. So, just kidding, council member right now. If I still don't think I see anybody else. Doug still doesn't count, so. All right, thank you for having me here today. Let's see, does this work? All right, who here is a Star Wars fan? Now, come on, truly a Star Wars fan, right? This is George Lucas's town, and Star Wars is a big deal. But I'm not talking about that Star Wars. Anybody here also a history buff of early 80s presidential candidacy? Mr. Ronald Reagan, Strategic Defense Initiative. Why this is important is because my dad got to work on the Strategic Defense Initiative when I was about 8 years old. I remember having some guys show up in black cars, and they get out in their black suits with black ties, and they walk up to my house, and I'm an 8-year-old kid, and I'm like, what's going on here? And they started asking me all these questions about my dad and what my dad did, and then my dad tells me I'm going to work on something called Star Wars, and I'm like, oh my God, my dad is going to work on Star Wars, and he had to break my heart and tell me it wasn't that Star Wars, but that Star Wars. So for those of you that don't know what the Strategic Defense Initiative was a program in the early 80s designed by Ronald Reagan to shoot down nuclear weapons, and particularly when we were going through the Cold War with the Soviet Union, and the threat of nuclear war was imminent, and so President Reagan thought, let's create this initiative where we'll create satellites, and the satellites will track the nuclear weapons, and it'll find those nuclear weapons and shoot them down from the satellite. My dad actually helped design the base of the satellite that would shoot down the missiles. Now, it never came to fruition, but I was always really proud of my dad for working on that. So it's from this launch pad, get it? Then I'm going to tell you a little bit about myself, my childhood, and what shaped me into being the individual that's running to the great city of Modesto today. So I am going to give you a glimpse into 3 driving forces that propel me into the role of tackling the job of city manager. First is my dad, then my dream, and finally my dilemma. So let's begin with the personal stuff and who I am today. So as I told you, my dad got to work on the Strategic Defense Initiative, and as I said, he was the person who helped engineer the base. Prior to him working on the Strategic Defense Initiative, my dad worked as a greenskeeper at the Oakland Alameda Coliseum, and he got to do it with the Oakland Raiders. And I'll never forget, we used to have this football, and he had it signed by all the Oakland Raiders, Cliff Branch and Kenny Stabler, and it was always really cool. But while my dad was working as a greenskeeper, he went to school at night at CSU, what we used to call Hayward State, it was now CSU East Bay, to get his bachelor's degree. And I used to be sad because my dad would come home, immediately turn around and leave and, go to school. But he did that because he wanted to have a better life for me and my family. And so, at the time, I didn't realize it, but I was watching how hard my dad was working. And then it's something that I want to emulate today. And it's something that I really learned from him. And it really meant a lot to me to watch him go and do that. He eventually got his master's degree in mechanical engineering, which led to the Strategic Defense Initiative. So my dad worked extremely hard. So once he finished his college degree, he started working as a mechanical engineer. And my dad used to leave for work at 3 a.m. Now, back then, traffic in the Bay Area was bad, but it wasn't that bad. He had to cross the Dumbarton Bridge. We lived in a little town at the time called Union City, California. He'd drive across the Dumbarton Bridge into Mountain View, and he left at 3 a.m. Today you have to leave 3 a.m. for traffic. He left at 3 a.m. because he wanted to come home and coach me in sports. And so sports to him was very important. And, it's the old saying, he lived vicariously through me and my athletic achievements. And so he pushed me every day to be the best I can in sports. So here's a little picture. So I had to highlight me because I showed this picture to people at work or at the city, and they couldn't point me out. So that's me. But then if you look at my dad, and everyone says, oh, yeah, you look like your dad. So that's my dad over there on the right. And I noticed he's got that little gray beard that I got. And I've always wondered where I got this from. So I guess now I know. I never actually realized it until I pulled that picture out. But every day when my dad got home, my dad coached all the teams I was on. Soccer, baseball, basketball, it didn't matter. He was always there. And he pushed me really hard. He was the dad coach who yelled at his son on the field because he wasn't doing something right. And then when I got home, guess what I got to do? I got to practice more. And so I developed this resentment for my dad as I started getting older into high school and as I started to transition to college because I wanted to have fun, right? I was a kid, and I just wanted to go play with my friends or play with my Star Wars toys or whatever the case may be, but my dad was just constantly pushing me. But what this taught me, though, as I look back and reflect on that time in my life was what it's like to work hard and what it's like to have to rely on other people to be successful in what you're doing. All the teams we were on, we were very successful. I got to travel all around the state playing soccer. I had a very successful high school soccer career. I'll brag on myself a little bit. I was actually an all-state soccer player my senior year of high school. I actually turned down some scholarships to play soccer because the other side of me is I hated running. So I actually didn't want to go play soccer anymore. But my dad taught me a lot of lessons at the time I didn't really realize that was happening, right? That you have to practice, you have to plan, and you have to prepare for what you're going to do later. And I take a lot of that into my job here today, and I'll talk a little bit about that in a little bit. So the other driving force of my life, of course, is my family. So here's my beautiful wife, Esther. There's Kennedy on the right. She's turning 13 next month. She looks like she's 16, and she acts like she's 18, so anybody who has daughters knows what I'm talking about right now. It's a very challenging time in the Lopez household. My daughter, Addison, she's turning 11. They're actually 2 years apart by 1 week. And so I told my wife, I got to have a male dog. You got to give me a male dog. So I got the manliest dog on earth. As you can see, even my request to have a dog was, while granted, and I got the male dog. I still didn't get to choose my, the Rottweiler or the Pit Bull. I got a Maltipoo, but this is my Maltipoo, all right? And I love this dog as much as anything in the world. All right, so I thought it was important to tell you a little bit about who I am and what drives me, because it does impact how I work today and what my vision is for the city of Modesto. And I'm dedicated to my family because my dad was dedicated to his. And I'm dedicated to my job because I watched how my dad worked at his job. And now I take that same passion he had for everything he had in his life, and I translate it into how I am today. And I'm invested in Modesto because I believe I have something to add. I live in this city. I have for the last several years, and I've enjoyed every minute of it. And I also have this competitiveness in me. That's why the sports analogy was in there. And I have this commitment, and I have this drive in me. And the staff here, oh wait, Thomas is telling me to change the slide. Sorry, Thomas. Say hi to Thomas over there. He's the one who helped me on all this. Yeah, you're gonna, thank you, Thomas. Hey, you're gonna help me out. Thank you. I won't call you out again, though. So, my dream, and I espouse this to our staff, I want Modesto to be the best organization it can be. I want it to be what we call a model organization. I want it to be an organization that other organizations look at and say, I want to be like them because they're doing it right. There are government organizations around this country that I believe are doing it right, and I want Modesto to be one. Have that AAA bond rating. We have a long way to go to get there, but doesn't mean we shouldn't strive to be there. How are we going to get there? These are the questions that we need to ask. But we're not going to be able to get there without some painful changes. It's going to take change. It's going to take change in the way we think and the way we operate and the mentality we have as an organization. And to that end, this is a slide, a quote from Max Dupree, who's a noted author. And the slide says, "We cannot become what we want to be remaining what we are." And this is a very poignant statement that I've held throughout my career. Continuous improvement should always be our goal. The way we've always done business may have been fine yesterday, but it may not be fine tomorrow. So how are we going to constantly look for the ways that we can improve the way we're doing business so that we can provide the best services for our community? That should always be our goal and something that I'm striving for. Just a quick side note, as I was a kid, I was that kid who always rearranged his room. I don't know if anybody else out here was like that, but I always rearranged my room because I was always trying to make it more efficient and more better and look better for me and how it fit my eye. So I constantly, every month, just moved my room around. I don't know why that's important, but as I was putting this together, I reflected on that. Efficiency and how we operate is so vitally important to everything that we do. Now, this is tough in Modesto because we're a very mature organization. The organization has been around for decades, right? And the same processes have been in place. We process your water bills the same way. We process development applications the same way. Everything we do, we take employment applications the same way we did 30 years ago, we're still doing it today. Is that the best way to do it? And if we're not questioning why we're doing the processes the way we're doing it, we're not doing our jobs correctly. So, an embarrassing example of how doing things the same way will always come back to bite you was the purchasing situation that happened a couple years ago. And it's one that I was personally embarrassed to be associated with an organization that was going to let that happen. But it did happen. But it wasn't that it happened, that we found that it happened, that was the problem, is that we allowed it to happen. And the processes that we had in place and the way people were looking at how we were securing our contracts. And no one, I don't want to say no one cared, but everyone thought it was everyone else's responsibility. And the departments were in silos and things like that. That's not the way we should be operating. We're the city of Modesto. You're not the Department of Finance, you're not the Department of Public Works. We're the city of Modesto. And our process is, if we look across our organization and you see one department doing a process the wrong way, you have a responsibility to question why that's being done that way. And I'll talk about our department heads here in a minute. And I'm not saying everything's bad in the organization. I don't want that to be your takeaway here. I think we have some great staff that are doing great things, and we're starting to make some great changes. But We're never going to rest on our laurels, and we're always going to be striving for greatness. So, how are we going to do this? We got to get back to basics. Sorry, the cheat screen's not working, so I got to make sure it's coming on. So we need to make sure that we get back to what our core businesses are and making sure that we're doing those core businesses efficiently. And we need to get our house in order. And in order to do that, we need to change the culture at City Hall. And we've been embarking on that, and I'll touch on that here in a minute. And we're going to do this, and we're going to provide good governance, because I think this community expects that of us, and they should. And we, in turn, want to provide that for them. Good governance means making decisions based on data and evidence and providing sound recommendations to our elected officials, those that you guys elect to put in this in their seats, that influence and shape the city of Modesto. Boy, I got to hurry up. So how are we going to do good governance? This triangle actually came out of the purchasing situation that I just talked about, and the triangle builds on itself. You have to be successful at each level in order to be a successful organization. Corporate support, accountability, and a value system. What are the values that we hold as an organization? What is our ethical code of conduct? What is your responsibility as an employee to the whole organization, not to yourself and not to your department, but the whole organization, and in turn this community? Ensuring excellent services. Just because we're the government doesn't mean we can't provide the best customer service possible. Private entities all over, they espouse the customer service. We're the government. That doesn't mean we can't treat you like you're the most important person that day and for that situation, because I guarantee you, when any of you call the city of Modesto, you remember that interaction. And when we have our new employee orientation, I tell people that all the time. You don't know it, but that interaction you're having with that individual that day is the most important interaction that individual's having. It's going to be the most thing that they remember that day, guaranteed. And so that's something that we're taking to heart. And then innovation and focus on the future. I don't think we're there yet. We dabble into innovation, into changing processes, but I think until we have these two first rungs taken care of, we got to be careful and take managed risks as we look towards innovation. So oversight and transparency, I talked about the purchasing situation. We can't be afraid to look under rocks. And I'm going to stand up here and tell you, we're probably going to find more things in this organization, but I'm not afraid to look, because I think I owe it to all of you and all of everybody in this community to look. Because if we're doing something wrong, we better own up to it and we better fix it, because it's not acceptable and it's not an organization I want to be part of. And I've asked all of our department heads to help me on this journey, to look underneath these rocks and see what we can uncover, and we're going to make it better, because that's always the goal. Continuous improvement is always the goal. But in order to do that, we do need a strong leadership team. And when I started as the interim city manager 2 years ago, out of the 12 department head positions that we have, those are the directors of the departments, including the deputy city managers, we had 8 acting or interim or vacant appointments. Today, they are all filled. We have a stable leadership team for the first time that I can remember in our 7 years here. And I think that's very beneficial to this organization. There's always been a lot of turnover here. Turnover at the city manager level, turnover at the department head level. When I look at our department head team, I don't see anybody going anywhere. So here's a look. Oh, God, sorry. I went too quick. So these are our directors right here. These are the team. There's a couple of them here. I see Jalen French. I see Kalua and Scotty. You guys met Edgar. Oh, and there's my brain. I got to introduce you, Michelle. Say hi, Michelle. She's my brain. She keeps me moving in the right directions, and I appreciate everything that she does for me every day. So I'm so excited to work with this diverse group of individuals who each bring a different and unique skill set to the organization. One that's going to help us look and make sure that we change the culture at City Hall and make sure that we do things that are right and that you expect of us as an organization. So one of the things that we're going to do is plan. We have to plan ahead. I mean, we have to look, not where do we want to be tomorrow or next week or next month, but where do we want to be 2, 5, 10 years from now? And we have several key initiatives that are going on that are going to look towards the future. How many people took the community survey? Oh, not as many as I would have hoped. But we did get 700 responses. We got a lot of good information on it. We actually worked with CSU Stanislaus, who's compiling all the information for us. We're going to be releasing that information. We're also in the middle of developing the strategic plan. The community survey is informing the strategic plan. We have a meeting tonight in La Loma. I don't know if anybody lives in Bill Zalaki's district. It's at La Loma Junior High at 5:30. We'd love to have you come out and solicit your input. There's other dates for future strategic plan meetings, and just encourage you guys to participate. Community participation is vitally important into the direction of the city. We're also embarking on the comprehensive general plan. Where's Modesto going to grow? Where are we going to be 30, 40 years from now? What are the boundaries going to be? We're doing an economic development master plan and a downtown master plan. All of these different plans are not going to be just built in City Hall. They need to be built in the community with your input, and I just encourage you all to participate. I got to hurry up. I'm already blinking. So, one of the ways we're changing City Hall is an initiative we're calling Reimagine Government. And this really speaks to me because government doesn't need to be what everyone thinks government is. As I said with customer service, we can act like a private business. We providing customer service. Customer service is doing the small things that are impactful on individuals. And Reimagine Government, there's 3 mottos with respect to Reimagine Government. We're going to do it by who we are, and who we are is going to be solution-oriented, collaborative, and caring. Caring for the community, caring for the customers, caring for our internal staff, and making sure we look out for each other. How we operate, we're going to be customer-focused, innovative, and responsible for our actions, and how we communicate through our newsletters, websites, videos, pictures. Thomas has done a great job in our social media. Hopefully you guys are seeing some of those things. Have you guys seen the city manager's monthly newsletter? Anybody seen that? So there, we have a listserv, and we've been developing. So if you guys have your email, if we have a sheet somewhere, we want your emails. We're trying to really build this list, and that we're finding some people use Facebook, some use Instagram, some use Twitter, and some use all these different social medias. But one of the most effective ways we can communicate with you is actually through email. So if you guys can somewhere, where's Edgar? Edgar, you get a sheet of paper and see Edgar and sign up for our listserv, and we'll make sure we get you guys all of the information. So again, we're not going to operate like your typical government. And if you see us operating like your typical government, you got to tell me, because it's not something that I think is acceptable, and it's not something that I think we should be doing as an organization. Okay, so research tells us that local government is best poised to help the community. State and federal government's too far removed. Local government, look at you guys are here today listening to the city manager of Modesto talk about what his dream is for Modesto. So that means you guys are engaged in the process. Our traffic signals, you guys are sitting at the light saying, "What? Why? There's no cars. Why is the light red?" Right? Why is this pothole here? Like, can't the government do anything to fix this? Well, you guys can help us make those decisions. When we bring items to council that are going to fix the traffic signals or fix a section of road, you guys can come and participate. You guys can come and ask Doug, say, "Doug, why aren't you taking care of my community? You don't ever do anything. You sit in your office all day and yell at Joe." And right, Doug? So you guys can interact with your local officials. You don't always get to see your state legislators, and I'm for sure you're probably not seeing your federal legislators, right? But you can see your, are you giving me 4 more minutes, Mike? No? So you guys get to interact. So that interaction and that participation from our community with me and our elected officials is so vitally important. But what this leads to what our dilemma is, though. Because what you may think is right could be different from what you think is right. And so how do the elected officials balance out what is right? And nowhere is this seen more than in the homeless situation, right? Everybody wants to solve the homeless situation. Everybody has a solution. But what does nobody want? In their backyard, right? And so this creates a certain conundrum that we have to work through as administrators of the city and our elected officials. But that's why we need your participation. How do we get that? How do we continue to interact with our community? I know you guys are all passionate about Modesto. You're here today, and I'm passionate about Modesto. And one of the things that we need to do is make sure that we work together in a collaboration to decide what is best for our community. So, we have an obligation to our residents and our voters to provide the basic service and be transparent in how we're doing it. But we're not going to make everybody happy. And everyone's expectation of transparency is different. Everyone talks about wanting transparency, but what does that really mean? You know, there's certain levels of transparency in how we operate, and it's not going to satisfy everybody's, and that's actually going to be one of our challenge questions. So the Strategic Defense Initiative never actually saw the light of day. Why did it never see the light of day? There's actually two reasons. One, politics, right? Politics kind of, especially at the federal level, seem to always get in the way. But two, it was too hard. In early 1980s, it wasn't ready. No one was ready for that to occur. Right? It was too hard. No one wanted to put in the time and the effort to do it. But I'm not that person who's going to shy away from any challenge. Nothing is too hard. And I believe by working together, we can overcome many of the obstacles that are happening here. I have this dream for this city and for this organization, and this could be an even better community than it is. It doesn't get a good rap. I think we all recognize that the reputation of Modesto outside of Modesto isn't the best it needs to be, but we can change that. We can change that by working together, by working collaboratively, by doing the little things better each and every day. So, there's going to be many things that are going to get in our way of trying to accomplish this dream. The mentality of it's just too hard and the fear of having difficult conversations. I'm not afraid of those conversations. I hope you're not either. And I'm going to be willing to put in the hard work for this city each and every day. And I hope you're ready to join me, make Modesto the place to be. So thank you for having me here today. I truly appreciate the opportunity to speak before you and hope you guys enjoy the rest of your day.
Courtney is so kind. Please do the texting. So I spent a lot of years in youth ministry and 12 years in the neighborhoods. So here's how I would have told those kids. Hey, just do the dang text. The big deal. Don't make big drama. And they would laugh, or you would roll your eyes like some of you are and just move right on. So they would either ignore me or do whatever I said. No, most of the time they'd ignore me. So thank you, Joe, so much for your leadership of us, and looking forward to continuing to work. So if there was a takeaway professionally, it would be this. Figure out what you're doing and how you're doing it, and align your efforts with the goals of the city. Really, the city is about ours. There are dreams in ours. So try to figure out with you, in your work or professionally or personally, how can you best align with where we're going together as a city. Figure it out. If you don't know, of course, they're available, they're accessible, they really are. See Michelle right here, this lady here, she sets up Joe's schedule or anybody else's schedules, and she's looking at me like, no, please don't do that. But no, okay, yeah. But she's there to help us and to connect with us. If there were some takeaways for me, I told you about humility. So he admitted mistakes, good leadership. Learning from mistakes, good leadership. Striving to get better and improve, good leadership. Working to redefine culture, how decisions are made, what they're going to do and not do. Making decisions on good data and evidence. Oversight and transparency. No fear to look under rocks. strong leadership team, developing that, growing that, recruiting that, planning into 5 or 10 years through a strategic plan, the general plan, and this notion of reimagining government. And we all know as the world is changing, our country's changing, reimagining government and how it does its business. We are all about that in every one of our sectors. And then let's do the hard things. Let's do the hard things. And I want to say to you that doing the hard thing is about courage. And I can't always answer for Joe because it can be scary at times, all of us. But the courage to do the hard things. Whether not everybody likes it or not, or understands it. But we do the hard things. Not just wondering whether I'm going to be elected to the next position or the next big job. No, you do the hard things. And so aligning our efforts, continuing with City Mission Network, for us to align our efforts, not just in who we are, but in how we do our business. I want to remind you, Edgar, stand up. I know you're trying to be quiet and all that and humble and you're shy. But see, that's Edgar right there. So go ahead. Yeah, go ahead. I think did you just graduate from Stan State? Did you just graduate? You didn't. You've been in, okay. Or they say in the neighborhood, graduate. Did you just graduate? Okay, so thank you for laughing. Thank you. The one person that laughs. I'm grateful. Thanks, Deb. So those are just from the talk. So let me give you just 3 things. Again, as we ask you and we evaluate ourselves, here's some things that we're evaluating, some measurables, some hard data for us. But we want to encourage you to take some time to read about team building, reimagining. And since the Final 4 is just about up, I'm just kind of skimming Seth Davis's book on getting to know us, how great coaches make great teams. And so if that's something that you're interested in, you're surely welcome to delve into that. We want to encourage you to schedule some time, even before you leave. If there's somebody that you met this morning that you're curious about, that you'd like to get to know more, please, before you leave this morning, go ahead and grab them and say, hey, pull out your calendar. Let's do this right now. And even some of you, even this morning, even after the week, I'll say, I'll see you on Thursday. Bring your calendar. And we'll look at our calendars and make it happen. So schedule a time with somebody to have lunch, breakfast, coffee, hear their story, get to know each other. Everything in our community is trust and relationships. If we don't trust each other, if we don't know each other, it ain't going to happen. Right? So, and I've been here long enough to know that's just how it's going to work. So, share with one person this week what you heard or you were challenged with this morning. So I want to encourage you. Go back to somebody today. Hey, I heard Joe Lopez, and here's one thing he said and have some dialogue around that. So those are some takeaways. Continue to get deeper in your leadership and our collaborative skills and community capacity building skills, as well as getting to know each other better. And maybe even somebody, here's an idea for me that I'm learning. I haven't got it down yet, but I spend a lot of years only gathering people around me that seem to agree with me in how things were done. So I'm going to say that's old school right there. A new school is, I want to connect with people that disagree with me, that I might not trust. I'm going to call them at times even my enemies. To say, tell me what you think. Tell me what you see. Why do you see that differently than maybe I see it differently? And have a dialogue around that. And I do it in public so I don't get hit in the mouth or anything like that. But I'm trying to connect with people that maybe see things differently than me. I want to encourage you. So those are my takeaways from this morning. We have our announcements on the back. These are all community leadership. As we listened to you last year, one of the things that a lot of you said to us is growing stronger and deeper in my leadership skills. So Ted Bolsinger is coming here on the 1st of May to work through with us on Canoeing the Mountains, his book, but it really is on adaptive leadership and how do you read the times? How do you read what's happening so that it can impact how you lead and who you lead and what you're going to be about. And of course, just want to encourage you, Global Leadership Summit. We'll begin promoting it much stronger here in the next weeks. Global Leadership Summit's coming in August. We're going to be in the event center down at Modesto Center Plaza. And we're moving locations because we've already outgrew the other location. And we're going after 600 people. So back at the table, upcoming events. I know the Redwood Center has an event back there. There's some other events going on back there. Fight Club is back there from Big Valley Church. There's some other things that are going on. I want to encourage you to go by there and grab what's happening in the community. And then finally this. Next month, and I'll let you go with this. Next month, we've asked Cindy Duenas, who is Executive Director of the Center for Human Services, will be with us. And I heard her in a smaller setting talk about her background, her family, and the 5 protective factors of a healthy family. And as we continue to work on all of us together on creating a great city to grow up in and to grow old in, there are 5 factors that she wants to share with us and talk to us about helping together determine the health and well-being of our families, of our moms and our kids and all that. So that'll be next month, and we're going to continue to move us all together to get deeper into the life of our community and exposing all of us to these key community leaders and spokespeople. So let me pray for you, and then I'm out of here. Master, thank you for these men and women who gather together, who take time every month to be intentional, that they create intentional space for mutual support and encouragement, for personal development and professional development. Lord, you know that none of us really want a meeting where we just come and we sit and listen to presenters, but the real life of this Catalyst group is at the tables and during the free times and open times. And so I thank you for these men and women, for their wisdom. And thanks for Joe. Thank you for the privilege that you've given us to, in one sense, be under his leadership as he's under our leadership. Thank you that we'll grow together to become all that we need to be and should be for the sake of everybody in our community. In Christ's name, amen. Hey, have a great morning. See you later.